The great chamber of the Galactic Council fell into complete silence. Ambassador Al of the Empire stood frozen at his speaking platform. His four eyes blinked in confusion as he processed what he had just heard. Around him, representatives from 37 different species sat in their designated seats, each one showing their own version of shock and disbelief. The human ambassador, a woman named, remained calm in her seat. She had short gray hair and tired eyes that had seen too much. Her hands rested on the table in front of her, perfectly still. She waited for someone to speak. "Could you repeat that?" Al finally managed to say. His translator device hummed softly as it converted his words. Nodded slowly. "I said that the Dominion no longer exists. The threat has been neutralized." Whispers spread through the chamber like fire through dry grass. They had been terrorizing the Outer Rim systems for over 200 years. They were a warrior species that lived for conquest. Their fleet numbered in the thousands. Their soldiers were bred for battle from birth. Every species in the galaxy had lost ships, colonies, and lives to the. And now this human woman was saying they were gone. High Counselor Myras, an ancient being with silver scales and wise eyes, leaned forward in her elevated seat. She had led the council for 60 years. In all that time, she had never heard anything so impossible. "Ambassador," she said carefully, "the council did not authorize military action against the. We were still in the planning phase of our defensive strategy. How could humanity have acted alone?" His expression did not change. "They attacked our colony on New Brisbane 3 weeks ago. They killed 42,000 civilians, men, women, and children. They broadcast the attack across all frequencies as a warning to others." The chamber grew even quieter. Many of the representatives had seen that broadcast. It had been horrific beyond description. "We understand your pain," Myra said gently. "They have caused suffering to all of us, but the Council's plan would have taken 5 years to prepare a combined fleet strong enough to—" "5 years," interrupted. Her voice remained soft, but something hard appeared in her eyes. "In 5 years, how many more colonies would burn? How many more children would die screaming while their parents watched?" No one answered. Stood from her seat. She walked slowly to the center of the chamber where a holographic display waited. With a touch of her hand, she activated it. A star map appeared, showing this territory in red. "This was the Dominion 2 weeks ago," she said. 17 star systems, 400 billion individuals, a military force that had never known defeat. She touched the display again. The red areas flickered and changed to gray. "This is the Dominion today. There is gone. Their fleet is destroyed. Their leadership is dead. The survivors, mostly civilians and non-combatants, have been relocated to containment zones where they will be monitored and eventually integrated into peaceful society." The ambassador found his voice again. "That's impossible. They had planetary shields. Their defense grid could destroy any attacking fleet before it got close. Our combined forces couldn't have broken through their defenses in 10 years of siege." Looked at him with something that might have been pity. "You're thinking like someone who wages war. You imagine fleets meeting in space, trading fire until one side surrenders. You think of occupation, of slow advances, of acceptable losses." She shook her head slowly. "Humans don't wage wars, we end threats." Another ambassador, a small creature named from the Harmony Collective, raised one of its many limbs. "What does that mean exactly? How is that different?" Turned off the holographic display. She walked back toward her seat but did not sit down. Instead, she faced the council with her hands clasped behind her back. "When we joined the galactic community 30 years ago, everyone laughed at us. Humanity was young, they said. We had no experience in space. Our ships were primitive. Our technology was decades behind." Several representatives shifted uncomfortably. They remembered those early days and the jokes they had made. "What nobody understood," continued, was that humanity had spent its entire existence fighting for survival. On our, we faced predators, diseases, ice ages, and countless natural disasters. We survived them all, but the greatest threat we ever faced was ourselves. She paused, letting her words settle. For thousands of years, humans fought each other. We became very good at it. Too good. We developed weapons that could destroy cities in seconds, weapons that could poison the land for generations, weapons that could end all life on our planet. The chamber was utterly silent now. Even the automated system seemed to be listening. And then something changed. We looked at what we had created and we decided that traditional war was no longer acceptable. The cost was too high. The suffering was too great. So we adapted. We evolved. We learned that the best way to protect our people was not to fight wars, but to make sure wars never happened. High Counselor Myra spoke carefully. And how did you accomplish that? Smile was cold. By making everyone understand that attacking us would not lead to war, it would lead to extinction. The word hung in the air like a death sentence. You destroyed an entire civilization, the ambassador said. His voice was barely a whisper. No, replied firmly. We destroyed a threat. They weren't a civilization. They were a plague. They existed only to conquer and kill. They had no art, no literature, no science beyond weapons. They bred their children in factories and taught them nothing but hatred and violence. She walked closer to the council's elevated platform. Every species here has tried to negotiate with the. Every species has offered them peace, trade, friendship. And every species has watched the laugh and continue their slaughter. The council has been debating how to handle them for 2 centuries. 2 centuries of death and destruction while you talked and planned and waited. There are rules, Myra said, though her voice lacked conviction. The council exists to maintain order, to ensure that disputes are resolved without violence. Nodded, and we respect those rules, we truly do. But they didn't join your council. They rejected your laws. They attacked innocent people without provocation or mercy. They placed themselves outside the protection of your rules. She returned to her seat and finally sat down. Humanity gave them one chance. After they attacked New Brisbane, we sent a message to their leadership. We told them to surrender immediately and face justice for their crimes. We promised fair treatment for those who cooperated. And their response, asked quietly. They laughed. They told us they would burn earth and feast on human flesh. They said they would keep humans alive in farms to breed more food. His voice remained steady, but her hands had closed into fists, so we ended them. The silence that followed was different from before. It was heavier, filled with something that might have been fear or might have been awe. Finally, Myra spoke. How did you do it? Even with your technology, you shouldn't have been able to defeat the so quickly. Looked at her for a long moment. You really want to know? The High Counselor nodded. We didn't send fleets. We didn't engage their military. We didn't give them the war they wanted. His voice dropped lower. We sent 3 ships. They were small and fast and nearly invisible to sensors. They carried weapons that we developed long ago on Earth but hoped never to use again. She took a deep breath. They had shields that could stop any conventional attack, but they couldn't stop a ship that was already inside their atmosphere before they knew it was there. They couldn't stop weapons that didn't explode on impact but instead released payloads designed to destroy from within. You poisoned their world, the ambassador said with horror in his voice. We neutralized a threat, corrected. The weapons were specific. They targeted only those with DNA. Everything else on that planet was left untouched. The buildings still stand. The animals still live. The plants still grow. Only they are gone. The chamber erupted in noise. Dozens of species talking at once, some shouting, some crying out in fear. The sound was deafening. Myra's raised her hand for silence. It took several minutes, but eventually the chamber grew quiet again. You've created weapons that can target specific species, she said. Her voice was troubled. This is something the Council explicitly forbade centuries ago. Met her gaze without flinching. The Council forbade it because they feared what might happen if such weapons were used irresponsibly. We agree with that fear, which is why we will never use these weapons against any species that lives in peace. We will never use them to conquer or control. We will only use them to protect. How can we trust that promise? Someone called out. Smiled, and for the first time it seemed genuine. Because in the 30 years since we joined the galactic community, humanity has never started a conflict. We've never taken territory that wasn't ours. We've never attacked anyone who didn't attack us first. We came to space looking for friends, not enemies. She stood again, addressing the entire council. But make no mistake, we will not allow our people to be slaughtered while others debate and discuss and delay. When someone threatens humanity, we don't respond with war. War is slow. War is messy. War creates cycles of revenge that last for generations. Her voice rose slightly. We respond with absolute, overwhelming, surgical precision. We remove the threat completely so that it can never threaten anyone again. And then we move on. We rebuild. We heal. We return to peace. The council sat in stunned contemplation. They had always seen humans as newcomers, as children in a galaxy of ancient civilizations. They had humanity for their short lives and violent history. Now they saw something different. They saw a species that had looked into the darkness of its own soul and emerged transformed. A species that understood violence better than anyone and therefore knew exactly when and how to use it. High Counselor Myers finally spoke. Ambassador, the Council will need time to process this information, but I have one question. Yes. Do you have weapons that could do the same to any of our species? Smile faded. She looked around the chamber at the gathered representatives. Some were former enemies. Some were current allies. All of them were now looking at humanity with new eyes. The honest answer, she said quietly, is yes, we could, but we never will as long as you never give us reason to. She walked toward the exit, pausing at the door. Humanity wants peace. We truly do. We want to trade, explore, learn, and grow together with all of you. We want to be your friends and partners. She looked back one final time. But we will never be your victims, and we will never stand by while innocents suffer. That is not who we are. That is not who we will ever be. The door closed behind her. In the chamber, 37 species sat in silence, each one realizing that the galaxy had changed forever. The young species that had stumbled into space 3 decades ago had shown them something none of them expected. Humanity had not come to wage war. They had come to ensure that no war would ever be necessary again, and they had the power to make that promise a reality. They had learned this lesson too late. No one in the council wanted to be next.